Sounds like just such a line. That's where you meet a lot of stuff.
iPad just screamed. Hey guys, how you doing today? Coming to the ML Ops meetup. We want to start out by thanking Weave for hosting. Thank you, Weave, and also for buying us food. So,
Yeah.
Traditionally, we start off these kinds of events asking if anybody's hiring. In the past few months, I've asked this. The room's always silent. So, is anybody hiring?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
So I work at a company called Comet. We're an ML Ops platform, and we're hiring technical specialists to help demonstrate the platform to data science teams. So if that's something interesting to you, I can get you connected to the right people afterwards.
Hey, anybody else gotten an announcement? Thank you, Jacob. I saw, so if you have not joined previously and are new to this meetup, Meetups is sponsored by Forge, well, put on by Forge Utah. Sponsor, because they bought us food. That's how you sponsor meetups, is you buy food. Forge Utah does have a job board on the Slack. The Forge Utah Slack has a job board. If you would like to join Forge Utah Slack and talk about ML or AI or data engineering or Kubernetes or what have we been talking about? Apparently Dart and Flutter were a hot topic today. So you just go to forgeutah.tech, right up the homepage. There's this button that says join Slack. On the jobs board, there was a posting for an AI team manager. So I don't know what that means, but Bayesian is hiring there. So if you're interested, looking for a job, you should always check out that job board on Forge Slack. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me, I promise. Go ahead.
We've got sales positions open where I work, so if anybody's in sales,
No.
come see me.
I'm just kidding.
Eric just needs to hire some salespeople to sell his boot camp. Right?
I'm not hiring.
That was a joke. Cool. Okay, I get Slack. I did that. Next month we will have another meetup. It'll be here at the end of the month. Ryan Russin has volunteered to speak next month, but I need his description, his talk title, depending on that. But we do have a speaker next month, and also most likely through the end of the year. So yeah, I really like this AI stuff. Well, I'm going to turn the time over then to Bart to go ahead and introduce himself and talk. I met Bart at Data Council. I was speaking at Data Council, and Bart was speaking at Data Council, and Deep Yamandata who lives in Salt Lake was also speaking there. So all three of us flew Salt Lake to Austin to speak, and besides San Francisco, we were probably the biggest area represented there. So anyway, time is yours, Bart. Give Bart a round of applause, guys.
So I've been trying to find Mariah for the whole time there at Data Council. Looking for her, didn't hardly know what she looked like. We just met on LinkedIn briefly and all of that. Never saw her, gave the presentation on the last day, like the final presentation of the last day. So it was pretty sparse because of the timing, not the topic. And then I'm like, where's Mariah? And so I have to give up on that. The next morning at ODART 30, I'm getting onto an airplane to fly back home, and I hear this, Mark Palmer?
I was sitting behind him.
She sat right behind me on the plane. So we had a good conversation on the way home. And somehow I got roped into this. So careful who you sit next to. I did volunteer. All right, now, okay. I'd just like to get a little quick. What comes to mind when you hear augmentative AI? Excuse me.
Neuralink,
What's that?
Neuralink.
Neuralink. That's deep stuff, man. That's deep stuff. Don't touch it. All right. Anybody else?
Cropping images.
Cropping images.
Cropping images.
Oh, cropping images. She does that on my phone. She just zooms and hits crop and it's done. Right? Doesn't.
Then she can augment data sets.
She does. She's very prolific in her words. Like a little too literate. Anybody else? Think through telemetry. Sifting through telemetry. It's another deep topic. Okay. Reminds me of an old joke. Somebody says, well, you say it's a deep subject, don't fall in. Okay. That was too late. Okay. To augment something is to make it bigger, right? So today might have been misleading because we're not augmenting AI, we're augmenting us. Well, hopefully the subcaption helped with that. So let's see. Anybody in here ever navigate using paper maps?
Back in the day.
What I was going to say, this is like back in the day.
Eagle Scouts.
Compass, maps, you know, which foot do you start out on so you get your paces right? Left. Okay. So paper maps. How would you? Well, let's say I was going to travel. We just got back from a vacation up in the Olympic Peninsula. Highly recommend it. The rainforest up there, absolutely gorgeous. But if you go in August, it doesn't rain on you at all. You get blue skies and dead moss everywhere. It's kind of fun. So we went on this trip, and in the old days, how for those that haven't used paper maps, can somebody explain how you would calculate how long it would take you to get from here past Seattle to like the whole rainforest? Anybody want to volunteer that? Whoa, all right. So what's it? 5, 6 hours? Okay, that's a rough guesstimate. Good. How did you come to that? You're from Seattle? How far from Seattle?
So I grew up in a link to the locals.
So
Going down over far side.
5 or 6 hours from here.
Oh, from here, I thought you said from Seattle.
Oh, sorry, from here. Yeah, from here to
Oh, 20 hours.
20 hours. That's pretty reasonable. Okay. In the old days, what you would do is you would sit down with a map. You could find a table that had big, you know, from city to city. You'd know how far that was. And then you would, if you needed to go past that city, you would go, each junction would have a number between. You'd have to add up all those little junctions. And that was the mileage past that. Okay. So something fairly simple. It's simple math. It's a bunch of addition, right? And then you have to say, well, how long will it take me to get there? So then you have to start guessing what the speed limit is everywhere on each segment. You want to get fairly precise. So, or you just said, oh, you know what, 35 miles an hour, because back then it was 55 on the freeway. Anybody remember that? Painful experience. And then along comes all this technology that we've got. And we do something like this. All right, so traveling from here in Lehigh to Second Beach, which has turned into my family's favorite beach up there. It's like a mile walk in and always cloudy, always ocean spray, never sun. But it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. 16 hours and 22 minutes. If you go the Portland route, we went the other route and it was 16 hours plus driving. Small kids, lots of stops. So how many of you trust this estimate right here? We had 20. You don't think so?
That would take longer than that. You have to stop. Right? You gotta drive 36.
You have to stop?
Yep.
Do you not? Never mind, I won't. Let's go. Well, we're engineers, developers in here. Yeah, raise of hands, those that are program or engineer type people. Those that aren't any product people? Eh? What do you, what? Operations. Operations, okay. Ops. Good. Okay. So engineers are special people. They can sit down and write code for weeks on end, never get up, never eat, not have to sleep. Sorry, what?
Never get distracted.
Distracted. You never get distracted. What do you mean? Having a browser right there that you can look up anything in the world and we never get distracted? What kind of non-curious people are we? Dang it. We kind of suck. No. The best kind of people, that's right. So we're very curious people. We're very optimistic people. And we say, oh yeah, I can do 16 hours in 20 minutes. Right? Because that's what's going on inside your head. But then there's a shiny thing, the Hill Air Force Base Museum. Anybody been there? If you haven't, highly recommend going and seeing the planes. Really awesome. Really shiny stuff to go get lost at for a couple hours. Long about over here, you probably will have a pit stop or two. Something like that. Over here, you probably need to eat and you'll stop, maybe sleep somewhere, spend the night. We had 10 people in the van, packed to the gills. It was awesome. And we made it all the way to Yakima in one day. That was a huge stretch, but it was awesome. So we forget that we're human sometimes as engineers, right? And everybody treats us as though we're not human in various ways. Some ways it's great because it's like, wow, you can do the impossible. And then in other ways, it's like, yeah, can't you just like have a real conversation? And so we're not humans. Okay, so Google Maps came along and fixed this addition problem that we've had, addition, multiplication, division problem. All I need it to do is like take my gas mileage right here, tell me how much it's going to cost and where to fill up. Right? Why isn't that on here? Or I have a 4-year-old. How often do I need a rest stop? So you're not stuck at the side of the road trying to, yeah. So Google Maps helps us. And you don't trust this because it's going to take longer because all of these things. Okay. But what does Google Maps do for you as these things happen? As life happens, what does Google Maps do to your estimate? It updates. Now, does Google Maps care who's driving? We're not sure. I don't know. Maybe. Depends on whose phone's watching, right? Maybe it's the average of that person's history. And we're like, well, on this kind of road, they drive this fast and all of that. Do you think it really gets down to that nitty gritty? Maybe. Or do you know? Oh, sorry, NDA, sorry. I'm just kidding.
Had an experience where we both pulled out our directions and they gave us a 3-minute difference.
3-minute difference.
Yeah, and one of us was known for driving slow. I won't say it.
All right, very good, very good. Well, there you go. The proof's in the pudding. So Google, generally, if you're using the same phone to navigate, like my phone was always on the dashboard, no matter who was driving. And so it just guesses my driving ability. So Google doesn't really do that. I mean, like huge, right? How about what kind of car you're driving? What size engine's in it? Any of these things? How big your tires are? How gnarly your tires are? Okay.
It should know that, but it doesn't.
It should know that. I should be able to punch in. I'm driving a Corvette and it's like, woo. Oh, and then it's like, oh, how many times do you get pulled over? Every speed trap, right? Now it knows. Does it notify you? Or does it notify them?
Yeah, exactly.
Red Corvette,
Down the street.
No, the police, that's a new use of data. No, actually, it's not because toll roads, right? The toll bridges in San Francisco, when they first put in the electronic tolls, they could tell people were speeding from entrance to exit. And so that had to become protected data. Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, so it updates, it's pretty smart, but it doesn't care about a lot of things that we might think we care about. But if there's a group of 10 of us from this room traveling up there, It's like, yeah, you drive fast, you drive slow. Yeah, no, we need you to drive more and you to drive less. Okay. Sorry, I'm not really picking on you. And you're a new driver, so you can't drive in the city. And you're also a new driver, so you can't drive through that rainstorm that's coming. All of these things. We try to pay attention to so much, and we try to care about so much. But in the end, don't we get to Second Beach in about 16 hours of driving time? More or less. And it predicts it because it knows how far we're going and about how fast the roads are right now, or the last time people traveled, right? So it's all based just on history. It's on other people's history and your future. That's it. If we get to Boise, it's going to update and say, oh, you've got this much left. It knows where we've been, but does it care how fast we did it at this point? Does how fast you've been have any bearing on how fast you're going to get there? If you're speeding along the way, right? Well, right about here, right here, the speed limit drops from 80 to like 25 in Oregon. And you can't pump your own gas. It's 65 actually, and so everybody does 70 because it's the closest to 80 that they feel good. This was a huge use of data and an augmentative experience with what seemed like magic at the day. Do you remember the first time you pulled open Google Maps or Google Earth? Did it feel like magic? The whole Ajax thing kind of like freaked your mind out. You start scrolling across and all these little sectors start filling in, and it's like, wow, it's almost like it knows where I'm going. It can predict me. Whoa, it's kind of freaky. And then we've had all of these years between. Okay, so this is the topic tonight. Has anybody ever had this question? You're mostly engineers. Had this question asked of you?
Every day.
Every day. Wow, that's pretty awesome. This is my question to my daughter. When are you gonna like finish the dishes or something, right? But it's, when will it be done? This is everyone ever that's not an engineer. Well, even the engineers, right? We ask each other. So when will that be done? Okay, so what is the answer to that? Depends. What do you mean by done, right? How many definitions of done are there in the engineering process? A lot of them. So done. Let's call it shippable. That's a pretty big one. That's painful. That's painful. Okay. So it's tricky because so much has to happen. Kind of like driving from Lehigh to Washington, the pistons have to fire at the right time. The computer's got to take care of the injection and the gas, and you go up a hill, you need to press on the gas, or if you forget to, you get there slower. It doesn't care Google doesn't care what the mountains are like. Google just thinks you're going to get there, right? So it takes into account so much that we don't have to anymore. So in this process, the PDLC kind of thing, discovery, decisions, design, architecture, how many people are involved in this right there? Is it a lot or just a few? It's a lot. It's a lot for you relative to the number of developers and testers. Okay, so in my experience, it's a relatively, to me, a small group. Like you've got your architect, you've got your designer, or 2 or 3, right? Or for each, maybe a pod has several, right? So it's a mix, but there's a lot of decisions that get made through there. And then there are about 1 billion more made right here. They're all checked, right? They're all checked. And then it comes back here and we do them again. And then we check them again and we finally can deliver. Okay, there's so much going on there. And it's a process of getting from Lehigh to Washington. We have to design, we figure out that Washington's a cool place to go. We make some decisions about when and where should we stay and all of this. We architect this plan. We're going to drive this far. We're going to stay here. We're going to do this, right? We put together all these details and then we actually like put the rubber to the road and leave. And then the whole thing's delivered once we're back and we're testing along the way. Oh, that was a bad turn. Okay, so especially down in this area here, so many things have to happen. And this is the response, right? So every one of those, is it done yet?
Estimates are not commitments.
You've never said that, have you? Wow.
I've said that same meaning a lot. Words in that order.
Okay, we're trying to keep it PG.
Great.
Okay.
You could have said that.
Okay, what every engineer should have said. No, just kidding. Okay, have to re-estimate. How many times have you re-estimated something? Lots of times. Lots of times. So, when I was talking about this subject down at Data Council, there was one product person in the whole room. This poor lady. And all these engineers, she got this a lot. Okay, so what is the cost of not knowing? What's the cost of not knowing when you're going to be able to ship your product? You guys thought that through? Anybody ever have a bug come through that was from a major client that needed to get done really fast? And what's the cost of not getting that done?
Delta Airlines.
What's that? Sanity? Okay, you hit a point there. Sorry, there's somebody else.
Delta Airlines goes down.
The world goes down. Something. Okay. You could lose the account, right? And if Delta Airlines is your account, then whoa, wow, that might be a big one, right? You can really suffer because of this.
Cost is risk.
Risk in many different ways, right? What are you thinking of?
Oh, just you maybe won't lose the account. You know, is the cost just the risk of it?
The cost.
The cost of not knowing the estimate is just the risk of losing it.
Oh, the risk of losing. Yeah, that can eat at you, can't it? Yeah.
Well, and even at a smaller scale, if you've got another team that depends on you completing your work at a certain time, they might be twiddling their thumbs for another couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's expensive. You guys cost a lot of money.
Worth wasting their time doing a bunch of stuff that won't matter the moment they see what you do.
Okay, so at Cartograph, what we found, what bugged us about this was the cost of not knowing. Anybody had any bad relationships at work because couldn't know the delivery? Any experiences where the rest of the business is like freaked out because engineering can't finish it on their timetable? But by the same token, from their side, when are you going to get it done so we can actually just tell somebody? And how many of you know your capacity and can say pretty well, I've got 16 hours and 22 minutes worth of work left? Can you say that? I see some chuckles. I'm not seeing any of these. Okay, so this is actually a real thing, and both sides just need to be able to communicate. Well, there was this problem, and we went, all right. Generally, what we see is that non-tech people can't understand the technical process. So we're going to come up with a better tracking tool to track that process, replace Jira, basically, and all its friends. So we get Tactical Operations Center. Well, sorry, that was Jen, sorry. I lost something. I lost a slide. That was kind of cool. We got some customers, but we found that the same conversations kept happening. We can't communicate, and product people couldn't understand the trajectory of development. I'm not sure we all understand the trajectory of development. So, like all good startups, that wasn't the solution. So, Tactical Operations Center. Maybe we just need to expose that information better. Anybody heard of jellyfish? They stole it. No, I'm just kidding.
The light,
What's that?
the jellyfish light.
Oh, yes, jellyfish, you know.
Yeah. That's
We
fun.
took the ferry back from Seattle, distraction, and you can see the jellyfish as you're flying across the water. It's so much fun. Every once in a while you see a Medusa jellyfish. Those are craziest looking. But not that jellyfish. We're talking about the one that does your engineering ops spying. It gives all the, how many commits do you do? How much code do you write? All of this kind of stuff. I can alter a lot of code really fast. Select, indent, commit, right? My lines of code is like, oh wait, no, I shouldn't have done that. So I better recommit it. Yeah, it's changed a whole bunch more. My stats are like through the roof. Through the roof. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so it's really cool data. And you can see everything happening at once. We can see that this developer right here, this young guy in his tuxedo, has a workload. That's this one. Has this workload. That's a lot of work, and has completed this many tasks over time. Kylie just started in. I think that's the right color. Man, it's really hard to see. Yeah. Okay. Skips tasks. Why do we care about skips tasks? Oh, because we want to know how many tasks you open and say, well, never mind. I'll do that with later in the sprint because, yeah, no, let me take care of these other ones first. Okay, so exposing this data out didn't solve the problem.
I'm making the screen brighter.
Oh, I was going to say the sun went down. That's cool. He has power. Whoa. So this is cool, but what does skips task stat tell the marketing folks when they can start marketing this release? Sorry, what?
I said nothing.
It doesn't tell them. Oh, but it's a cool stat,
Yeah.
right?
One task's left to complete, right? When is that gonna get done?
Wait. Oh, wait, close. Wait, I've got to reestimate. Wait, when is it going to get done? Okay. So cool stuff, really cool stats. This is kind of like having, okay, so the previous one, Jetstar and Jarrett, that's like having a different car in your trip, right? It's the thing that we're going to track what we're doing and we're going to get there. So we have an odometer. We got a better odometer. Now we're going to, wait, that doesn't really help us know when we're going to get there. And this is like having a tachometer. How fast is the engine going? Are all the cylinders firing? Some dev shops, maybe not. I don't know. But this is a view into the car, but it doesn't really help us get where we're going. AI is a lot of this right now, would you say? It's a lot of really, really cool stuff that we think is really cool, but sometimes it's kind of weird. Anybody talk to a chatbot that's kind of weird? Anybody made a chatbot that's kind of weird? That's our job, right? Make it less weird, but we're weird. So I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. It's just whatever. Okay, so from the product view, and take a step out of your shoes. Let's go visit the product people real quick. Okay. Anybody heard of the cone of uncertainty? Oh, good. This is awesome. Okay, so you have an initial concept. The x-axis, this is remaining variability, right? This is one. This is singularity. We have the idea of kind of what we want, but we're not exactly sure how we're going to implement it. We're not sure what we're going to do. And then we start defining it, and so our uncertainty starts to drop. And then we can say, oh, well, I love how they put this construct. Marketing requirements come before the detail requirements, the technical requirements. Anybody have this problem? Okay, yeah. Marketing requirements. Okay, and then we figure out what's possible. What will sell? Now, how are we going to do it? It's not all bad. And then detailed design. That's really cool. We have reduced the uncertainty down a lot. At least we think so. Then we put it in the hands of developers. And where's the next milestone? It's close. It's estimates aren't commitments. It's all of those things.
Making me look bad.
Why?
I'm a developer.
I am too. And I say those same things all the time. What I'm trying to get out is reality. And then we're going to help with data. So if we find the problems that are glaring, this is a whole. Look at this. There is no data that's going to tell you how close your uncertainty is getting right here, right? And so because of those previous answers, it more looks like this, the blunt object of uncertainty. So we put it in developers' hands and we say, when will it be done? As long as it's out here, it's like close, not yet, closer. We're closer than we were closer last week. We keep going until about 2 weeks before we can ship. When we finally are pretty sure that we're not going to run into any more bugs, we've tested almost everything. There might be a few annoyances, but we've got good workarounds. Okay, now we can ship. But by then, marketing's going, we need 3 months of lead time. And so you can't coordinate the release with the marketing. Now you got to wait 3 months so marketing can do their thing, right? That's cost of not knowing. How many accounts can you not close because of that? How many accounts will get lost because you can't ship it? How many? The costs of that. How much developer insanity? So it's like, oh, well, we've got to release this hot fix, but we've also got to keep that patch, but we got to keep, and it's craziness. Okay. You guys are like, what does that have to do with ML? Okay. Enter cartograph. We are the map app for the jungle. So we started looking at this. We said, what the business side needs. So we're using ML to predict, to deliver we're giving predictability to the technical data so that the business side can go do their stuff with a reasonable assurance that we're going to land at 16 hours and 22 minutes ish. Right. So we said, all right, so now we've got Bentley here. And his workload share, he's carrying 85% of the workload. Don't die, don't walk in front of any buses, all of that. And he's being a little bit slow compared to what he used to be. So this is cool. This might be helpful. We know who's carrying the load and are they ahead of schedule or behind schedule, right? Are they producing as fast as they have? And what's going on with all of their tasks? Well, that's really cool, except for how many of you want the product people telling you which engineers get to work on which stuff, when, in what order? Want them concerned about each individual person's pace. Anybody want that? Ooh. You just took all the wind out of their sails. Well, yeah, this didn't fly either. But we need the predictability for them. So we're using data to predict your actions. This is a weird thing. Let's use the past to predict the future. We're optimistic people, right? As data people, engineers, we're kind of optimistic. Anybody do their estimation kind of like this? Now, I might be exposing my naivete here, or my really ridiculously simple way of estimating. Lick my finger, hold it up to the air. Which way is the wind blowing? Sit down and I think about it like, okay, what am I going to have to change? Yeah, like a quick estimate, right? And I think about it and I go, let's say I have to change this and that'll take a little bit, and that'll take a little bit of this. Ooh, that one's really hard, so that should take a little bit of time. I start adding it up in my head. By now I'm distracted and I'm thinking about lunch and then something else. And then I think about it some more. And I get to a point where I go, okay, it's done. I've got a way of doing everything. I pretend it's done. And then I think, how long did that take me? And I come up with a number. That's my estimate. Anybody have that experience? It's something, we kind of make up numbers, but it's kind of like getting a 16-hour estimate to Seattle and saying, yeah, I'll be there in 15. We forget we have like hours. We forget we need to sleep. We forget that, oh yeah, Joe next door is going to ask me a bunch of questions. I'm going to help on his tasks. He's going to help on mine. I'm going to need Susan's help because she's the expert in that. We're all going to, oh, and I've got to wait for this other group. And we've got all these things. Okay. So we are pretty good at estimating each individual task, but start adding it up and we start getting really optimistic. And then we give those numbers. We may even pad them. We double them. And then the smart manager doubles that. And the smart director doubles that. And the smart VP doubles that. And the smart CTO person triples that. Right? And hopefully it'll get done sometime between tomorrow afternoon and a year and a half from now. Because we just don't know. And that's how, I'm over exaggerating just a little bit, but that's kind of how things run some days. Am I wrong? Am I really far off?
You're wrong in saying that you're exaggerating.
Dang it. I had more hope for this group. Just kidding. Okay, so if we can use the past to predict the future, what if we can say, well, what's your completion rate? How many tasks do you get done a week? How many tasks are left to do? And let's run it. And let's figure out how long this thing's going to take.
Well, now the tasks are the same size.
That's an interesting thing. And I'd like to talk about that for a second. So what if, like this red thing here, see the map, this is the calendar. You can go through like that, and there's that one. And I do need to solve that problem. We add a task. What would you expect this line to do? It should like start wrapping over here. Right? If we get stuff done, well, time's moving, right, at a constant. We're going to get stuff done. Should that line move? Hopefully back this way, right? Hey, we're getting faster. We're getting better. We're doing things well. Can you guys help me, enlighten me just a little bit about task size? When you go to size a task, I really want to hear your thoughts on this. When you size a task, do you say, how many use story points? Okay, if you don't use story points, what do you use?
T-shirt size.
T-shirt size, a task is, okay. And what does a t-shirt size mean?
I don't know. I always go by my gut anyway, so.
Okay, my gut says I'm a large. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so, but what does a t-shirt size mean to the size of the task? What dimension of large is it? What dimension of small is it? Because story points have the same problem, right? It's one number that has risk, complexity, size, difficulty, all these things mixed together into one number. Now we're all data people here, kind of, right? Is that a good measure? A measure that means 6 different things? That I'm exaggerating. Maybe. Is that a good number to base your numbers off from, all your calculations? All the purists in here are like, heck no. All the realists are like, oh, maybe if that's all I got.
Yeah. That's the only thing that I think works.
Okay, 1, 2.
I was just thinking that story points, t-shirt sizes, it's not really intended for the engineering audience. At least that's been my experience with the groups that I've been in early. When we finally implemented Agile, you had, dev managers, you had product managers, you had people in the room. You're throwing up t-shirt sizes, marketing wants a certain set of things, and they say, oh, engineering's telling me this size is big, and they're in their minds thinking, okay, maybe that feature gets pushed out.
Hmm.
And so it's not really intended for engineering. I mean, we're just kind of telling them, we think this is a big problem.
Okay. What do you base the size of your sprint on? How many tasks do you put into your sprint?
I understand.
You base it off the size everybody gave it.
Well, and I guess this is probably what you're getting to too. T-shirt size depends on the person who says it.
Yeah.
See, that's why I say go by your
You
gut.
go by somebody's gut.
Yes.
Somebody's gut. Who's got the skinniest gut? You're gonna go with that because we can get it done faster.
The biggest gut.
Oh yeah, that's actually probably the smart thing.
I want a buffer.
Yes.
Well, here's a story from my last job. You have, story points, right?
Uh-huh.
At the end, everybody's saying how many points ranked, and that person did the most. Then you have people gamify the system. And they put little 1-point tasks here and there to start popping them all up. And so everybody hates that guy, but he looks like he's the most productive on the team because he, gamed the system. So that's one thing that I've seen happen multiple times. There's risks and everybody hates the points. Nobody likes the points. And it ends up being something that everybody's grumpy about at the end of the day. And it doesn't really have a lot of utility other than to keep people task.
It's interesting.
And it's arguable whether it is effective at all.
Well, and if a task is really big, Like if you're pointing a task and you get an 8 or a 13,
You don't do this. It's too big.
do you leave it at an 8 or 13?
Go down.
We talk about down, right? And so for that, that's not a bad thing. That's great. That's fantastic. It helps us scope the work in meaningful ways. That is amazing. That is amazing. But what's the difference between a 3 and a 5? My God.
Yes. 3 is doable, 5 never happens.
Five might happen in 2 sprints. Okay, then we need 2.5s. Wait. Anyway, we'll do the math later.
3 is a one line change and then I take a nap. 5 is actually 3.
There you go.
Just a quick anecdote. It was actually today a coworker said that her significant other works at a startup here in the valley, and they get apparently their yearly bonus based on the number of story points they complete. Apparently, it's a huge strife right now at the company because of that.
It's like that Dilbert. When your boss said, hey, we're going to offer an internal bounty for bugs. He's like, I can fix this one. Oh yeah, I can fix this one. All right. So we need this to be simple, scalable, easy, and let's not change your workload. Let's actually take workload off from you. Okay. Let's take workload off. So I would argue, as far as task size, like all of that, sure, you're going to have some 5s. I'll just say it. You're going to have some 1s. You're going to have some 1s that should be like 0.2s. And you're going to have some 5s that probably should have been 14s or 23. What's the next number? Anyway, that's going to happen. But on average, do you kind of break them down to the same size when you can? There's kind of an upper limit of where you're going to break them down to. So there's an upper limit to that error, to any error that you're going to do. I was talking to somebody the other day. They basically say, okay, a story point is a day, a developer day. So every task is at least a day. Well, that's cool, I guess. If you get more done, great. But let's not overestimate ourselves. So a story point's a day. That kind of was cool. Although you're not supposed to compare them to days somehow. Somehow they're supposed to mean something, but not mean time. So that's a pretty complex thing. Have you ever tried to explain story points to any non-technical? That doesn't go well. It's kind of weird. So let's make it simple as it can be, and not more complex. So what we did was we started looking at, instead of saying, well, doneness and task size, like there's a whole lot of weeds we can get down into and tune for and all kinds of things. But can you trust the story points? Can you trust the mythical man months? Can you trust the developer hours that are put to it? Can you trust all that from the people that are giving it? It's not consistent with people. We found very little correlation between the two, between time and size. So we came back to this doneness idea. Let's mark things done. But then we realized that there wasn't enough data. And so instead of looking at how big the problem is before we go into it, we look at how big the process is the problem has to work through in order to be done. Chew on that for a second. This process, how many of you have a tracking system that tracks something akin to do, in progress, done? Anybody not have a system like that? Okay, all the Trello users, raise your hand. Kidding. No, really? I use both. Okay, yeah. And it can work if you know how to do that, if you can plug yourself into it. Thank you very much. So to do, doing, and done, and there can be 15 stages in that, or there can be those 3, but it's something like that, right? And that is the one thing that everybody agrees everything needs to go through in order to be done. Once it leaves testing and shippable, you can call it done, hopefully. Knocking on wood. Okay. Anybody have questions about that? Like the process?
Is it a new ticket or is it the same ticket?
Doesn't matter. Okay. All right. Where's my smiley face? Okay. So let's measure the time through the process that is constant instead of worrying about how big the things are that we're trying to shove through that pipe. Because you guys are going to break them down to a manageable size. And you're going to kind of do it consistently. Okay. All right. So once we have that, here's our Gantt chart. All of this data up here, the lengths of these are all calculated. Anybody have a Gantt chart that's magic like this? That updates itself based on your tickets that you're completing, so that nobody has to come to you and say, hey, when will that be done? Because they know it'll be done the week of September 9th. All of this here, most product people, they spend 5, 10, 15 hours a week coming to ask engineers, asking engineering leadership, when is this going to get done? And you know the answers? We've seen them. And they spend all this time trying to estimate and go, okay, here's this, and this is how long it's taking, so that they can update a couple of numbers to take back to the board and say, this is when things will ship, to take it to marketing, take it to sales, take it to the CFO, so we can all get paid, right? When can we count on stuff? That's what this gives. But when you drive into the details that we expose, we don't expose every individual developer. Who develops all by themselves? You're a team of one. Okay, there are like 4 of us in here, 5, 6. All right.
I just
You don't know how many people you work with?
So it's,
Sorry, say that again.
I just did a dissertation, so I was on my own.
Those were fun days. Okay. Most of them have a Gantt chart, like product board or ours. I think they come in and they set this and they're like, where's it feel good? Their gut. A product person's gut is telling them where this line should go to. How comfortable are you with that? Depends on the product person, obviously. Some of them are pretty good. What's that?
Is my bonus tied to it?
I would say yes.
Oh, I care a lot.
Okay, good. Okay. But this Gantt chart, it's got all of these things. Now, do we know something's done? Actually, how many of you have ever seen a project get 100% completed? Like all of the tickets are in the done category. How often does that happen? Anybody that sees it 80% of the time? Wow, I want to come work at your shop. No, that's actually super rare. One thing I got digging in this data, I'm like, nobody finishes anything. There is no project that gets in like 90% of them do not get done. It's the most amazing thing. What are you smiling about? Tech that. Yeah. Oh, we don't need that part of the feature. Okay. Right. Stuff gets dropped off. But does it get removed out of the epic?
Oh, never.
It's sitting.
Take it with backlog.
Clean it up.
It hopefully goes back, but it never does. But
Because the product person underestimated how long it would take.
if you leave it in there so that it keeps going. I like it. I'm on to you. All right. So we see the percent done, and then even this, well, this one 100% done. Wow, that's like amazing. This one's 50% done, but it's taken that long, but somehow it's going to get done here. That's pretty amazing. Okay, so this is a Gantt chart that we've made that now plugs this hole between developers being able to communicate their timelines and wasting their time re-estimating how long it's going to take them. How many of you waste time doing that instead of programming? Thinking about the programming or learning so that you can be a better programmer or a better engineer, or better ML ops person or whatever.
Job is estimating right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, I don't want to take away your job, but I might. It's just updates. It just updates so that you don't have to get bugged about when. You just can just get it done. Now imagine, okay, we just had the Olympics. Who won the 100-yard dash? Sorry, what again? Yep. I don't remember his name, but I remember USA. It was close, but a new world record, right?
Very close.
How fast did he? It was photo finish, right?
979.
Wait, what?
0.003 seconds.
Oh, 0.003. Okay, so what was his time?
979.
979. Okay. How many of us run sprints?
Not that fast.
Well, not that fast.
Software sprints.
Okay, software sprints. How many of us sprint on software? Quite a few, I think. Okay, you have like times, right? And you start sprinting, and then we stop you and say, how fast do you feel like you're running? We have another gold medal here if it were, if we treated it that way. Wait, hang on. You're over here now? Okay, stop for just a second. When will you be done? And we're going to extend it another 10 meters. Can you estimate how long it'll take you to do those other 10 meters? Anybody feeling this pain? You're like cruising. I was like, wait, stop. Now come meet. Let's think about something that you're not doing so that you can get away from the thing you are doing so it can take longer. I love this. This is great. Okay, let's stop the madness. Okay, now take that Gantt chart and now blow it up as to the number of transitions per project per week. That's not the same one. Or well, something. Trying to find one that goes across. This one. Okay. It didn't work on here. It worked on here. Oh shoot! I think this is my data. Oh, I'm just kidding. I don't work anymore apparently. And then this is today. This is this week. It looks like I've got a lot to do. This is what's remaining to get done. The area doesn't change. That's how many transitions you need to make through all your tests to get them done. And this right here is your average transitions. This is how much you actually get done in a week generally. Like take the average of all this. We've got this line. How much are you expected to do right now? You got job security. That's what?
A lot.
There's a little bit going on, right? Now, eventually out here it dies down sometime in 2027, but we've got a lot to do. This is called this is backlog of the current stuff. It's not even stuff we haven't touched yet. Anybody feeling this in your job sometime? You're like, because these eat at you. In minimal living, there's this concept where the stuff in your house calls you. It actually takes up space in your head. It's saying, why don't you display me? I'm this stuff that you got at this foreign country. Why am I not being displayed? And stuff, because you have memories of all of this and it sits there and eats at you. One of the best ways to go to sleep when you're anxious is to sit down, write down what's making you anxious, make a plan for tomorrow, put it away and go to bed, wake up and do the plan. But if you have that much stuff that you know is hanging over your head as a developer, how well can you concentrate this week? No wonder we get burnout. No wonder we get tired. No wonder we're kind of a little sensitive about this subject because so much is required. Now, if your product person had this line to more or less hit, when we're planning how much to get done, I mean, when they can ship stuff, when they can tell marketing they could ship. And so you plan your dev cycles, your weeks about in here. Would you feel better about your product person planning your future? Wouldn't you feel pretty good about that? No, the product person doesn't have to come to you and interrupt you. And you don't have to go and yell at them because they made promises you can't keep. I make promises my body can't keep. I mean, that's just aging. That's just life. But we need it to work a little better than we are today. So we have now taken this really painful, really archaic, really awful way of planning and estimating. And now we can run it out. And we've taken workloads off from people. And if something changes, it automatically updates. You change it again, it automatically updates. You start working faster, guess what happens? This line starts creeping up. And that's fantastic. You add more people, this line pops up over time, right? If you add somebody, how fast can they be productive anyway? It'll creep up over the next 12 weeks, and so will they. They'll get there. But it'll take some time. So this all just kind of takes care of itself. Now, can you game this system? Can you? Tell me how you'd game this system.
I'll do nothing for a while.
Oh, yeah, like me. Yeah, that might have happened here. Actually, this isn't my data. This is just one set of obfuscated data here. This is actually real data. You set the bar low, you can game it. But pretty soon you'll be, they're not gonna put up with that very long. Or have they? Oh, NDA. What happens in my low bar stays in my low bar. Okay, but do you see how this plugs a hole and this takes care of? How many of you know how to talk about your capacity in a way that makes sense to other people? I can get done with 3 tasks a week. You know, you could say that, but how many of you actually get done with 3 tasks a week? Your tasks, I mean, mine generally are long enough, they take a week. Right? So I get 1 task a week done, 1 task a week done. That's exciting to tell people. But a whole engineering org can say, we put this many transitions through our pipeline. Now, the beauty is that maybe this task has a cycle in it. Maybe it gets to testing, comes back, gets to testing, comes back. Maybe it gets back, says, I need more information. And then it can come back and keep going. So that agreed upon flow might have cycles in it. And so we can judge that and we can estimate based on how good you think you are at doing that task. That's might be a different way to measure it. Anyway, that's a capacity chart. And so we look at them here now, because we have a forecast, we can tell you over the last couple of weeks, how far has that forecast moved? Is that forecast moving? Are we getting closer or are we getting farther away? Unfortunately, a lot of times it's farther away. If they said, if you say, no, that's not really going to take that long. So they're going to set a target date of 13 September, but Cartograph saying 4th of November, and you moved out another week. It used to be end of October. Now it's 4th of November. It's moved out, but you haven't even started. I don't think you're getting done right here. We had a customer the other day. It was like, it looked like this, a little fuller. And then right here, because they'd taken those target dates and moved them right here. So everything had to end here, okay? And they said, oh no, we're gonna get that done in 2 weeks. So they moved that target date and all those transitions piled up. And now it's the next week. Guess what happened? Do you think they got done with that blue file? No, they got done with about this much. Actually, it was right about there. And then what happened to the next week? It doubled in size minus that much because everything had to be done this week. This is the way you told us that you were going to get it done. Now, once that date passes, I say to heck with your target date. I'm just going to plan with what you've been doing on this project and you just get it done. Does that make sense? This is pretty crazy. People can lie to themselves for a little while here, but not for very long because it just looks ugly. And you guys aren't going to put up with that. That's burnout city. Ooh. Okay, so that's what those target dates do. So now the product folks can come in and they can add tasks, they can remove tasks, they can see what that does to the timelines, they can shift products, the future, they can shift the future around. Because now they have open space out there. Once you get out there and there's nothing below that line, they can help you fill up that line with what's needed. And then they can push back when somebody comes in, there's a swoop and poop from the C-suite. And they come in and they say, oh, I gotta have this done. Okay, what if these, hey, that puts us way above our capacity. They're now your best friends. They're your best friends because they shield you from all the insanity. They can also budget plan. You can choose your size. We have about how long it's going to take you. This is actually getting updated right now. It's going to be even better. They can put in the whole requirements document here. And you can build the whole requirements document, and then we'll push that to Jira for you. And then the technical folks can fill it all out. It's kind of fun. So they can put these ideas together so that we're not crowding Jira with a huge backlog of stories or epics or stuff. And then that keeps Jira clear so that you guys can just do your job. So does anybody have any but what abouts with this data crunching? This hole that we've plugged using data that actually exists. Oh, wait, what did I ask the developers to change? What am I changing about your workflow with this? How about you don't have to estimate for a project that you're going to do in 6 months? Are you okay with that change? Great. You'd be okay with that? Do you want to know what it is? Oh, maybe. But I got to get stuff done today, right? They're going to stop bugging you every week about where things are and how fast you're moving, when it's going to get done. Anybody down with that one? I'm all over that. We're trying to just help. And so we're augmenting everybody's capabilities using existing data in a way that we've never thought of before. And we can answer questions like, what's our team's capacity? Nobody ever works in a silo. I mean, Stack Overflow, Google, right? We all develop in teams. It's just, we might have different kinds of teams. AI coding. How many of you use AI coding solely and you're just like tweaking it? Is it good enough for you yet? No. But is it augmenting you sometimes? Does it augment you a lot right now? Yeah, good. Good. I need you to teach me how to do that. So we're getting there with better and better tools. Now the product people have a tool using your data, but not exposing you individually. It helps them understand how your teams flow. And that's the augmentation that really, when the rubber hits the road, gets us from here to Washington. And that's pretty cool. Okay, I already talked about a lot of the lessons we learned. Any questions?
I had a but what about question.
Oh, good.
The thing that I've seen is like a extra small or a small. I could know about how long that takes, but anything above that becomes, I feel like, unknowable in terms of like a time estimate that we saw in the last slide. And generally what I've seen is that large projects, they get broken down until they're manageable size tasks. But that breaking down doesn't happen until we're closer to doing.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm skeptical of sizing of tasks. And especially if product is the one that's sizing, or
always in conjunction, hopefully, with like an architect, right?
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess is the architect and product able to break down tasks for engineers into a small or extra small?
Could an architect say this project is a little similar to these over here? And so we're pretty sure they're about that same size, give or take some. I mean, if you're pre anything, you're just guessing anyway.
Yeah.
Right. You may as well guess with data than just guess according to what was for lunch today.
How I do it.
But point well made. Well made. There's a point where we're saying that's why it's just t-shirt sizes right now. Just a number of tasks. Tell me the number of tasks, and have you done this before? How confident are you in your ability to execute on this? What kind of a priority is it? And what kind of capacity are you going to throw at it? We only ask them those big general questions, and it'll chunk out a block of time. Then as you start adding tasks, if it goes over what was originally estimated, you just bump it up, follow that up. And there's always scope creep. We've already planned in some scope creep. We watch your scope creep. We go, oh, you guys are creepy. And we creep for you. We already added it in. Okay, I saw another.
Yeah, that was actually my exact question, was how do you handle scope creep? Because I feel like sometimes things get added in the sprint or to the project And you don't want to be punished for the fact that you gave an estimate earlier and now you're having to do extra stuff. But I think you literally just said it's baked into the, it will get moved in, it'll get moved out, it'll reflect itself on.
Now, people do weird things with projects. They'll have an epic, and they'll have one task, and it goes to a development stage. And so I count it as started, but that's not really the start because they're just sizing, they're starting to add all the tasks, right? And so, I have to guess at what scope creep means because so many different shops do it so differently. Everybody runs things just a little bit differently. You guys are all so creative. But what is start? What is start and what is end? Those are actually really hard problems to answer, questions to answer. What are each of those? Scope creep is something in between. Right? You get stuff added in between in that scope creep. We had an experience just recently where the project was mostly done. They added 4 more tasks and it popped it out 6 weeks. They call up and they say, that doesn't sound right. Because all our heavy lifting we've done. And so these next, no, they're not going to take that long. And we said, well, according to your pace on the project over time, that's how long it's going to take you to finish that many tasks. Now they don't, it's task size, right? I don't think they broke them down enough at the beginning so that they would have a decent flow through. They added on these couple of piddly ones at the end, and I was like, whoop. But that's why we get to set the target date. We can say, oh, no, those really are tiny. And guess what? I'm probably right. Actually, a lot of times we're right. It's really fun. It's awful. It's awful to be right that much. Sometimes we're wrong, and that's great.
So you mentioned that a lot of what you do for the predictability is based on the past. What do you do when you don't have a past to go off the cold start problem?
We actually just had another instance of that recently, and I had to fix a few things. So week 1 on a project, so these t-shirt sizes, the general past gets applied, but it fades. And as the project ensues, I start using the project's data, right? So there's this crossfade. And so if I don't have any past for you, then 100% of it is based on your last week. And then in 2 weeks, I have 2 weeks worth of data. In 3 weeks, I have 3 weeks worth of data. And so I already have a past, like, give me 3 weeks. And Mozilla commercial, give me 6 weeks, I'll take off the weight, something. Anyway, weight loss commercial. What's that? Oh, okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
You mentioned that you aggregate this data, and have customers asked maybe for adversarial metrics or data so that they can gauge individuals or teams in ways that maybe you don't think is a good?
Yes. Yes. Some places, apparently, the product person can say, I want this engineer on this. And I'm like, oh, okay, you can go ahead and ask for them, but I'm not going to give you the data. That kind of thing. Yeah. Out to the individual. Or does this company want to know this company? Production rate. I haven't really had that one yet. I'm sure it's coming. Yeah, you just asked for it. But does that make sense? Because an individual does not program individually. If they are, the development team knows it and they're a wild card and not a good team player. And it's probably not somebody, it's going to be obvious. It's going to be obvious. But who has asked for help from a colleague, asked a question, or been asked a question by a colleague in this week so far? It's Tuesday. Okay, that's about a third of us. Okay, how about last week? Anybody have that happen last week? Right, every day. That's because you're in the estimating range. Oh man, I need help estimating. Which way's the wind blowing?
Well, I do the estimating, they do the work.
Oh.
It works out really well.
Oh, there you go. I want that job. Oh wait, I have that job.
I wear all the hats.
I estimate, you do the work. Okay, so none of us put this in a silo. And so if somebody, if their stats are low, then let's work to bring their stats up in a good way. Let's not beat each other up. Do they ask? Actually, we have CTOs push back and say, no, you can't have our data because I don't want you spying. And I'm like, we're your best friends. We will protect you. And see it right here. I'll show you the tasks and where they are, but I don't tell you who's assigned to them. I don't trust that anyway. Like, has anybody worked on a task that was assigned to somebody else while you worked on it? Yeah.
The whole time.
Can we dig into that protection a little bit? We talked a
Yeah,
little
go
bit about devs and engineers gaming the system, right? Let's
If you transition, you feel like, ooh, I can build my stats.
Oh, no, I'm
You're
curious.
on the hook.
Executives and middle management and product people, they all are doing the exact same game. They're just on the other side. With this, it seems like what they would be gaming is the capacity, right? They're gaming that average weekly capacity. How do they get that up? What do you say to them when they're saying, hey, my team's average weekly capacity is dropping?
Okay.
How do I get it back up?
And pizza,
Morale.
be nicer to them.
Hire more.
It could be hire more. You're asking them to do too much. If it's a situation like this, then we can talk to them and say, look what you're expecting them to do. Look what's on their back burners because they've been interrupted or they just can't move as fast as even they thought they could or that you thought you could. The expectations have to be managed. This manages your expectations of what you should strive for, right? And then now, will this become the metric? And it's like, okay, make sure you get your transitions in. Well, guess what? I don't count like the transitions done. You can keep adding them, but it only pads this 1 week. It doesn't impact what's left. It's kind of like Google Maps. You've driven this far and you drove that fast. That's great, but it's what's left to be done.
So does that mean that you can only manage their expectations so far as they have planned?
No, that line is your last 12 weeks. And so we're just assuming you'll have that today. We have plans of changing that. So they can say, well, what if we hire more people? And then they can say, okay, at this point, we're going to hire people. And we assume, and we're making an attempt. This is really hard because you can't trust the assignment data. Like, what does it mean to be assigned when it goes into development or when it moves out of development into testing or something? Like, where do I know that somebody was assigned to this and actually did that work? So it's really hard to say that this person did this amount of work because you work as teams. And I don't want to get into that, but I want to say, if you add another developer, it's this. If you add another tester, it's this. Where's your bottleneck? We'll be able to start helping you plan capacity in the future. But today, people are still just trying to get their head around this.
I could see like C-level like VPs like pitting teams against each other and being like, well, this team's actually having this many transitions and you guys are down here. Maybe next quarter you guys could get that up a bit.
That's a good point. So what would you say to somebody like that? How could we avoid that? Because I don't want to put a weapon in somebody's hand.
Come on, man, my dashboard is not meant to be combative.
My transition rate is not a commitment. I mean, you're back to some of the same things, right? They're already doing that, but with other data that really, do you know what? In the end, what matters, I think, that label right there. Now, maybe a team by their convention breaks things down differently, and so their transitions are different. Maybe they have a different workflow that they're working through, so their transitions are different. You can explain all that away, right? That's easy to explain. Having somebody remember that that's the case is harder. But if you can get to here within the estimates that in a reasonable amount of time and you're working at it, you're not getting interrupted. You're not seeing a whole lot of different projects here. You're like, okay, we did this one. Now we're done. Let's do that one. Now we're done. So we're not splitting our time, splitting our heads so we can be more consistent. I think that's the argument to be made. We are huge advocates for protecting the developers to the point that it makes sense to protect developers. But we also know that the business needs to sell stuff so that everybody can get paid. And you're the engine. You're the engine firing on all cylinders. You're taking care of yourselves. Leave engineering management doing what engineering management needs to do. This is only to know, are we moving? And if it's changing, we can start asking questions. Hopefully it's changing this way. But we've seen both. People do weird things with epics too. Oh my gosh. Dumping grounds. Anyway, these are incredibly good questions, and they're hard questions. And there's a lot of hard truths. How many of you have ever said, oh, it's close, it's almost, and then a week before you're supposed to ship, it's like, yeah, no. Because we have so much hope. What's that?
It's a product. Can we just add a button that gets the user's history in the last week? Right?
Yes, it'll be done next month. It's so true. It's so true, but we want to protect that. And so now you can say, okay, we add a task here. This is no longer done. It's now over here, right? Or here, because we have all this that we're doing. Tech debt. You can go in and say, this much of our capacity is tech debt. Put it in there and just plan for it. Plan it in. Let's make it happy. Let's take up the time beforehand so that we don't scramble too much. Anyway, that's really all I had. If there are more questions, happy to answer them. We've gone over by a long ways. I apologize. That's what she said. But there are no death threats so far. So no emojis with knives coming out. But I hope okay, this is not like, I didn't go super technical deep into ML, but the application about something that I hope you guys all care about tremendously and deeply is like, how do you talk about your work with data that supports what you need, what you say, and what you can do? That's a pretty powerful place to stand. That's powerful. And a company that can run on that kind of stuff is a powerful company. I think it's pretty cool. Thanks.